you hear like your voice on their laptop, and you're like, I can hear myself and myself somewhere else at the same time. It's really trippy. Got that same vibe over there. But welcome to everybody in person here. Welcome to everybody online. I know that we're getting started pretty soon. Still some people out there. Hopefully they'll start trickling in pretty soon. But I wanted to okay, I think we're good now. I wanted to go ahead and get started just because it's 7:03, it's 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and start the presentation that we have with our two presenters. I'm actually really excited about seeing this one about the combo of the team of the Note Assistance Program and the Tiny Home Lady. I think there's just such a great combination. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead with a couple of quick announcements, then we'll go ahead and get started with the education portion of the event. Working a second ago. Can I get some assistance on the there we go. So before we get started, who here has heard of Quest? I think I see a lot of familiar faces. Yes. So for those who are not familiar, we are a self-directed IRA custodian that helps individuals use 401ks and IRAs to purchase things like real estate, notes, LLCs, other forms of private entities, the whole shebang. But one of the, great things about Quest is we provide a lot of really great customer service, and we have some pretty sweet deals, if I might say so myself. So currently our promotion that we have going on right now is rewards for deposits. So, maybe you've been struggling on the stock market. Maybe you want to change in your investment strategy or anything along those lines, and you have an IRA, a 401k, or you just simply just want to move funds. Our current promotion going on is rewards for deposits, meaning that, if you open up an account with the promo and you move X amount of money, you actually get a credit added to your account, and it at least covers your first transaction. So you can go ahead and start doing deals pretty much immediately with that first transaction being essentially waived. It's the same price as the transaction fee. But if you're an existing client, you can actually still get this credit if you plan on moving money anyway to and from your account or to your account. So all you have to do is just email sales, but you can get anywhere up to $500 for your account credit based on your qualifying deposit. And hey, if you're planning on, investing anyway, and you plan on moving money anyway, it's a pretty good deal, I should say. But a lot of people really like it. We've actually brought this back after, I think, 2 years. People kept asking about it. So we're bringing it back. So if you're interested, come talk to one of the IRA specialists around here. Myself, I think Katie's around here somewhere. And then we have Zach coming in pretty shortly after as well. Next slide, please. The next thing we have is the Elite Multifamily Summit. So who here went to the Masters of Tax Avoidance boot camp? Not very many people. Well, you missed it. It was actually a wonderful event. We learned a lot. Adam Barr was there. He was one of the panelists on there. It's pretty cool. But this next one we're doing is actually going to be in Dallas at the Omni Las Colinas Hotel. But basically, it's all about multifamily. So we have a couple of big names there. I think we're still working on the agenda, but that's going to be revealed pretty soon on August 12th. Tickets are in pre-sale right now. So make sure you get your tickets. Come see myself or Kamea in the back over there after the event to snag your ticket. I think we've got some deals going on as well. And next one, please. Because I don't know why it's not working. It was working a second ago. Oh, it's working now. Great. Speaking of Dallas, I'm sure that a lot of you have heard the Quest Expo. Who here has attended the Quest Expo in the last, 3 years? A good chunk of people. It is by far one of my favorite events that we have here at Quest. If you have not attended, you're missing out, just like, a lot of the bigger events here. But the Quest Expo is something different. And we started this in 2018, and it was so successful that we continued this every single year. So I actually did a lot of the coordination for the speakers and sponsors last year. And I can say we had 61 vendors at this Houston Expo that we had last year. And about an additional, on top of that, 58 to 59 different speakers across the country fly in person to this event with about, I think our final ticket count was about 700 people attended this event over the 3 days. But we started moving this to every other year. So for those who went to 2022, sorry, there's not one for 2023, but there is one for 2024. And we finally have our our city, which is going to be in Irving, Texas. So if you're going to the Elite Multifamily Summit, hey, you can also come to the one next year for the Quest Expo in June 28th through 29th. So we shortened it a little bit to provide more value. But I can say from personal experience, one, having last year's Expo and then also being on the committee this year, that this is going to be bigger and better than anything we've ever done before. So if you want to stay up to date with when tickets become available or anything, go ahead and scan that QR code to be on the exclusive 2024 Expo newsletter for any deals just exclusively to that newsletter. But save the date, June 28th and 29th. And also, too, guys, we have a lot of additional resources here. Quest, believes in access to education for all. So we have a lot of different things that we have here. We have our self-directed IRA Saturdays, which is our 12 p.m. webinars, our socials, which is every first Tuesday of the month for Houston at 6:30, following Austin and Dallas the following Tuesdays, our lunch and learns following the same relative schedule except for Thursdays. So if you're here around the area on this Thursday, 12 p.m., make sure you come by the office and grab some lunch. And then we started something new called LinkedIn Live classes. So these are something new. It's going to be every first and third Thursday at 1 p.m. So if you stream live on LinkedIn, it's going to be a good time. We did the first one. It was actually turned out pretty good for the first one. So we're going to continue that. And then, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I worked really hard on it back in the day. So this is just a personal request. Please subscribe. They have a lot of really cool information on there. Stop working again. It's giving me a really hard time. I don't know. That's it? Oh, that's it? Okay, I guess we can switch to the presenters. So I'm going to do a quick introduction, but I know that they're going to, be able to talk. Who's going to talk better about themselves than themselves, right? But I wanted to bring up two ladies that are just so wonderful. First, we have Jasmine Willows, and she is the founder and president of the Note Assistance Program. Now, the Note Assistant Program offers like a very proven proprietary system for educating investors, entrepreneurs on how to buy non-performing mortgages from big banks. This includes like hedge funds and credit unions as well. But Jasmine is very energetic, and to listen to her speak is really wonderful. So you guys are in for a treat tonight, that's for sure. And then Lindsay Wood, this is my first time meeting Lindsay, but she was so sweet, and she seems like a wonderful investor herself, also known as the tiny home lady. I'm so excited to hear about what you have to say. And I hear you're on a mission to develop 100,000 attainable, sustainable tiny homes across the U.S. So that seems super exciting. Tiny homes, I've seen so much along, the United States. It definitely fills up my For You page, that's for sure, because it's so fun. But it seems like a really up and coming, strategy, and I'm really excited to learn more about it. So ladies, if you don't mind, come on up.
Thank you so much. Don't you guys love Quest?
Yes.
They put the fun in self-directed IRAs. Is that right?
Perfect.
So great to be here.
All right. How's everyone? You guys doing all right? Good stuff. She already told you I'm obnoxious with my energy. So she prepared you. I'm thinking that's fine. All right. Yes. So just want to introduce, let me see, make sure this is working. Wanted to talk to you guys and welcome you to our presentation about tiny home investing. The main goal here, we're going to walk through what we're going to talk about in detail. The main goal here is to open up and expose you to the huge opportunity of this emerging market, as far as I'm concerned, the future of it, and give you an opportunity to get invested in it before it becomes mainstream, right? And so I think it's an opportunity for us to get in before the herd comes. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. And I specialize in getting involved with investments via debt. So that's one of my favorite types of investments to do, whether or not you're buying a company or, as you will find out, in investment in tiny homes. So let's get this started. Without any further ado, we have to say thank you. My mom raised me this way, so gratitude is a currency that I pay in. So I want to make sure to say thank you to Quest. They are the reason I'm here. I will always give a 10-second shout out to Quincy, good friend of mine. He's the one that told me to start this business and has supported me ever since. I used to do cruises with him in the Bahamas, for those of you who remember how long ago that was, right? 15 some odd years ago. So I cannot thank you guys enough for having us and letting us show you really the benefit of investing in notes and then leveraging your money. Today, I am here with one of my good friends, Lindsay. We call her the tiny home lady. She definitely matches my energy and my spirit. So we met, I don't know what, maybe 4 months ago. And it was like, when you're little, you have that friend you meet on the playground and you guys have been friends ever since. You just run around. You just meet instantly. You remember that? And you remember that far? That's kind of how she and I came about. So I want to have her introduce herself, but let me give you an idea of what the agenda is going to be. Is that okay? All right, perfect. So we're going to talk about what is a tiny home in detail, because these are new things. There's new specs, okay? And you guys have to be able to determine, in my opinion, the difference between the tiny home, the RV, the mobile home, all those things, right? What the true opportunity is, and from our opinion. And then I'm going to jump in. So that's what Lindsay's going to cover. And I'm going to jump in. Why do we invest in the tiny home market? Okay. I'm all about the opportunity and where you can put your dollars, and then the best ways that you can invest in the tiny home market. Okay. And so many of you guys know that you can get out there and build homes. So I don't know that I see many in here who want to actually build the homes. So we're going to talk to you about how to invest in a more passive way. Without further ado, Lindsay, please take over.
Thank you, Jasmine. So great. I just remembered where I connected with Jasmine. I was looking for solutions and someone connected me with her. And I'm so grateful to that person that connected me to you, because this is how I'm here in front of all of you in a topic. How many of you have seen tiny homes online? Right? Checked them out on maybe YouTube, saw people living in them. And now you're here, interested and curious, because this is the new wave of housing opportunity. It's not the only solution, but it is a very attractive solution. So let's see if we can go to the next slide. Oh, it's okay. You want me to grab it? Cool. Okay. All right. So this is a little bit about me. Born in California in 1970, 53 years old, and I'm proud to call myself a person of the world. I was an Army brat that was raised traveling all over the world, and my parents still travel the world. And I love the ability to travel. However, I love the American dream. And so the American dream for me was creating my own company, being an entrepreneur and being the boss of my own world. And so through a lot of different iterations of my life, I did get an MBA, and that was wonderful. The first green MBA in the country from a college that's no longer around. And I became the CEO of the Tiny Home Lady. That is the name of my company. That's who I am. I figure I might as well take stake in that place, in that industry, because it's up and coming and it's creating. And little short story, our builder for our first very tiny home in 2018 went out of business in the middle of the build. So that left us with a surprise DIY. And from that, I created the Go Tiny Academy. Most people, when I tell that story of a builder going out of business, how many of you could turn around and just say, okay, I'll swing the hammer and run the drill, right? Probably not the thing that all of us would like to do, but we had to deal with it nonetheless because we only had so much money left in the budget. So we created the Go Tiny Academy to really answer those burning questions for people that had questions about land. Where do you park it? How many of you are most curious about where do you put these things? Anyone out there, just so I know, okay, yep, that's a really common thing. How about financing, right? We're going to talk a lot about that because there's a lot of opportunity in this industry for that. And then the last one is who's going to build it? Well, based on the land, based on the finance, you're going to find your builder. And so putting all those pieces together is what I created in the Go Tiny Academy. And we've been living tiny, my husband and I, for 6 years. That's something that I am really excited about. Not everybody that builds tiny homes lives in a tiny home. I really, really appreciate the people that do because they know the product. They know what it's like to live in a small space. Our tiny home is 300 square feet. It sits on a gooseneck trailer, 32 long, 8.5 wide. We've traveled at 10,000 miles around the country. Not everybody does that, but we did. And we drove from California out to Austin to Houston, here in Lake Conroe, made it all the way back to Colorado and back, and realized that we no longer like driving it so far. We like to be more placed in based, but it is movable. So I went on to hosting the Tiny Home, Go Tiny TV on YouTube. It's a channel that I really want to start featuring other builders, more of the experts. There's a lot of people giving tours of tiny homes. I don't need to do that. I want to focus on the industry, the people that you need to actually do due diligence on. Okay. So that's what's going to be on that channel. It's still up and coming. Nationally recognized educator and speaker. I speak at all the tiny home festivals around the country. I've been speaking at festivals since 2019. I do about 10 or so events around the year throughout the country. And also the creator of the Go Tiny brand. I have the showcase. I do VIP tours. You know, the beautiful thing about a new industry, there's a lot of opportunity, especially for someone that has a lot of energy like myself. The recent Tiny Home Festival in San Diego, we had 96 sold out tickets out of 120 of people that will come to the festival, not just pay $20, but pay $87 to figure out what they really need to do to go tiny. Because just going to a festival is one thing, having it a guided experience is another. So that's another thing. And I've really had 30 years of marketing and sales and other industries, from biodiesel to LED lighting to now the tiny home industry. So it's really leveraging all of that. And real estate investing. How many real estate investors out there? That's right. So first flips I did in 2015, learned about self-directed investing, got right into it. Did a number of flips to realize that, I love this, but I think I really want to build attainable, sustainable housing. You can only build so many multi-million-dollar mansions to realize that I think I need to shift in a different direction that will be more aligned with my values. When my values are, we need a lot more housing for the missing middle out there. And then I just love hiking, kayaking, dancing, being out in nature. Because I travel so much, I go find those amazing places. We live in Arizona right now. We're launching a 250 tiny home village right in Prescott, Arizona. So we get to check out all the cool places near the Grand Canyon, Sedona. I've never lived there before, but that's how you get to know a place when you live there. All right, so that's a little bit about me.
Real quickly, is that exciting? Tell me about. Now, is this a question you want to know?
I've been busy.
Walking and talk.
Busy.
What do they call it?
Oh, there we
Walking and
go.
talking the walk or something like that. Well, that's what she's doing.
Thank you.
No, exactly. And I would also highly recommend, for those of you who are on Instagram, follow her. It's fun. You get to see where she's going, see the real life. She is living the tiny home experience. So what I love about working with her, if I may have the clicker, is that she, I'll let you next time, I apologize.
Sure.
She can tell you the ins and outs, what it's like to live in one, what it's like to build one, what it's like to work with one. And she knows all the people, like she mentioned, in the industry to get you started, no matter what direction you're going in. So this is why we came together. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Jasmine Willows, excuse me. Originally from New York City. That's why I talk fast, I have a lot of energy. Currently live in San Diego, California. So it slowed my pace down a little bit. Can't take the New York out of a girl. Only take the girl out of New York. And so I currently run a podcast called the Naked Notes Podcast. If you do that QR code right there, you can scan it and start listening to it. It is a podcast. It's my give to the community about why and how to invest in mortgage notes. Okay. When I met Lindsay, I said, wow, this is important. This is what I want to do. I want to make sure there's enough money, enough liquidity given to these tiny homes borrowers, right? Because the big banks right away are not going to rush to this. When we talk about who's in this industry, it's not going to be the Wells Fargos right now. Okay. It's not going to be the First Republics. Anybody get that joke? Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, I'm a banker, so you're gonna get a lot of banker humor from me. But yeah, so I do this podcast. This is my 5th year. So when I tell you that we are strong on it, it reads and works as a supplemental educational guide. You listen to season 1, episode 1. What is a note? Why do we note? Why do banks sell notes? All those questions that you want to know. Why would a bank sell a performing note? What do I have to do to be successful in buying notes? As of last month, we just launched a $50 million fund, and the acronyms was MMAGT2H, and that stands for Make Money and Go to Heaven. Anybody like that? That's what that's about. Okay, so where does that come from? I spent my first, as we get down to the bottom, when I got out of college, I went to Wall Street during the dot-com era and was a day trader. Made a lot of money, was not comfortable where I thought I was going. Can you get what catch my drift? No, yeah. Yes, it was, wasn't it? That was slick. I like it. Quick think over there. So I wanted to change that last acronym around, the last letter, because I'm very conscious about that. So that's where this comes from. And I left Wall Street and decided to start my own. Okay. Got really fascinated about debt. And that's where I am today. Just a short version of it. And over this is my 10-year anniversary of having the company called the Note Assistance Program. I call it the Note Assistance Program because that's what we do. We are going to assist you in learning how to be proficient in buying notes. We're not going to teach you how to buy from me. I went to a lot of these guru classes. I actually was understudy to a lot of them, people that you know out here. I worked very closely with them. What I didn't like about their programs is that they were teaching you to buy from them, literally. They had their own fund with notes that they owned, and they sold them to you. So we're going to teach you how to buy notes from all different places, including tiny home loans, right? From banks, hedge funds, from individual sellers and private sellers. So that means that the negotiation process is going to be one that you can use out in the streets, right? It's not just applicable to my personal club. So that's what's exciting to me, is make sure you guys leave and know how to negotiate with banks or anybody else to buy paper in a legitimate way where you'll be taken respect with respect. Because if you get in front of a banker and offer them 50 cents on the dollar, all these things that you're hearing about, they will not call you again. You know this. Okay, so we're going to save the embarrassment, and that's why we started this note assistance program, to go out there and talk to you guys face to face from banker to banker. Okay, I have a degree in economics. I have a minor in industrial organization. Industrial organization just means that I know how to look at a company and tell what's happening before they tell you what they're doing. Okay, so again, did I call First Republic? Not by name, but I told everyone that we're going down, and Jamie Dimon is going to be the one to swoop them all up. Okay, so you want to know my Jamie Dimon theory? Just buy me a drink. But with that said, I'm a Forbes Business Council member. You find me writing there every now and then. Obviously, I speak nationally on this topic specifically, sometimes about entrepreneurship. I have 15 plus years in the secondary mortgage market, 6 years, like I said, on Wall Street, work with MetLife, Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, 30 years in the traditional real estate market. When I was young, my entire family, they owned property. And when and they rented it out. So when the tenants would leave, or guess what I had to do? I would go and clean up the house, get it ready for the next people. So I have a real intimate relationship with real estate. And so once I learned about the debt side of it, it became full circle. So I think that's what's going to be one of the benefits. I've managed tons and tons of money. I've worked for GMAC Homecomings. I don't know if you guys know, but General Motors is in the mortgage business. Qualcomm is in the mortgage business. Jack in the Box, they buy mortgages. I just sold $119 million worth of loans to an insurance company. Anybody have any questions? You can ask me. Why would an insurance company buy? No, you guys get it? What was that? And what do you say? That's the more sophisticated way to say it. But you got to understand, real quick, insurance companies do not make money off of the insurance business. They make money off the investments. And they needed to be very conservative. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fun fact here. I'm going off script just a little bit, but fun fact. 90% of the mortgages in America right now are performing. 3% mortgages are only defaulted on any given Sunday. And when there's a recession, that number only goes as high as 6%. How many people are surprised? How many people thought more mortgages were defaulted? But they're not. You will hear the banks whine, but do not listen to the country western song. Don't listen to it. Okay, there's only on any given Sunday, even on the worst day, 6% of the mortgages that are delinquent. So what I'm telling you this for, and why I'm going there, is because these performing notes are very solid. When you get those 700s, 6%ers, those are the investments, like she said, that they want to invest in. Perfect pay histories, no delinquencies. There's a lot of people out there who think it's a cardinal sin to be late on your mortgage. Okay, and so those are the coveted assets that make banks become stable and have stable balance sheets. Okay, so that's one of the entire mission that I'm on right now, is to get on to people and let them know loans, put them into your portfolio. Okay, this is literally the pinnacle asset that all banks survive off of. So we need some of them. And as far as my fun side, paddleboarding, I like that you kayak. We're gonna have to do that too. I was like, oh my goodness, that's great. And I like to play poker. I'm a gambling woman. Okay, so I have a bag. I actually have some cards in my backpack if anybody wants to play with me later. All right. Right afterwards, right? Poker party. Mom, sister, and then obviously a mentor. I really, I'll leave it with this, is that I'm still the original founder of my company. And so it is very personal to me when you join, that I get you across the finish line and make sure that you are successful in note investing, right? And so when I put mentor there next to being a mom and a wife, it's because deep down inside, the people I train are like extensions of children, if not cousins of mine. Does that make sense? So I want you guys to get across the board and learn how to put this into your portfolio safely. So without further ado, let's get diving into the meat and potatoes here. I thought it was very important that you know who you are learning from, right? Does everyone agree? It's important that you know who's talking to you, so you know if they have the right to tell you about the things they were talking about. So let's get into what is a tiny home. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yes, thank you. All right. So what is a tiny home? The history. How is all this started and how is it currently going? Let me just paint a picture. There we was in Iowa in the middle of winter in an RV called an Airstream. Anyone been in an Airstream? How thick are those walls? Not very thick. How cold can an Iowa winter get? Below degrees, right? Very cold. So what was he doing with the heating? Constantly pumping heat through that RV, realizing that he didn't own the land below him, but he would like to be able to build a home that was a little better and thicker than the RV that he was living in. And so my friend Jay Schaefer, the godfather of tiny homes, came up with the cute little tiny home that we largely see. The funny thing that I get from a lot of people, well, that's a bigger tiny home. So really, I have Jay to thank for all the ongoing questions about how big a tiny home should really be. In my book, the small home movement was birthed. The word tiny home oftentimes get attributed to the wheels. We'll talk a little bit about the wheels versus the foundation, but it's really the small home movement, the movement, towards simplicity and all of those things. And that's very much Jay. If you know him, he was a minimalist. That was the guy that started this movement. Not everyone's as minimalist as him. He had like 2 pairs of pants, 3 shirts, the whole thing. Well, it didn't mean that everybody else was going to follow suit, but could we reduce a little bit different than where I was raised in 1970, where it was like go big or go home, right? The homes just got bigger. Anyone know of the 1950s average square foot? How big was that? 1,000 square feet, spot on. So we had how many people in that home? 1,000 square feet? 4 or 5. Yeah. Now, 2,500 square feet, family of 2.5. I'm not sure how they split up the person, but 2.5 is the actual number. Okay, so then we get into defining the home experience is really the building codes. So I'm going to have to hold my ham up like this. So we have the building standard of the home. That is the home that it's built. How big it is, how tall it is, what kind of walls, all of those things. Then there's the zoning laws. So usually I do this. Zoning laws are the ground, building standards, and these two oftentimes need to talk if you want to do something legally. Now, I'm not the code police here, so I oftentimes ask the question, do you want to do something under the radar or permitted? And I ask it with a straight face, and they kind of look at me. Most times, I would say 9 out of 10, they're going to say legally with permits. But that is where the building standards and the zoning laws have to start talking with each other. So that's one of the things that makes this special to this industry is that communication, because so many of us have seen them on the wheels. Well, what are wheels? Remember Jay back in the Airstream? Recreational vehicle, trailer park, manufactured home, built in the 40s. What does that conjure up? Really good quality building? No. Trailer park? Just the word. We've come from a world where we have stigmas associated to that industry and that time in which it was built. World War II, what did we have to do? Build a lot of homes. There's a lot of people coming back from the war and we had to build them quick. We don't have the same building standards then as we do now because we learned our lessons, right? Those homes built to last a good whopping 10 years, but people are still living in them. And that's what sort of degraded. And then we also had zoning laws that were also built way back then when we had different values. We had values around race, religion, wealth, all of those things, and we separated the cities based on that. And now we have what we called redlining, now called zoning. It didn't really change much, but we're making progress. In a number of places around the country, we're making a lot of progress, and we have more progress to make. And finally, the materials, the quality of materials. A Formica counter versus a quartz counter. Which one's going to stand up longer, right? Anyone live with a, quartz counter? Exactly. Even the granite counter actually does not last as good as a quartz counter. And there's all kinds of materials that are evolving. Yeah, the quartz is the new thing because the granite is actually a little more brittle. In fact, did you know that if the granite still kind of generates a dust or a kind of a film to it, you'll still kind of clean it many, many days, months after. Whereas the quartz changed all that. No more issue of dust, not as brittle and all of that. And of course, the quality is there, but so is the weight. So for some people, they want to actually reduce the weight if they're going to move it around a lot, but that's actually not the case. So I thought I'd bring in the good old, I found this picture, right? We are so back in a time where we've wanted to be mobile for so long, right? We're on the 113-year anniversary of the RV. And that RV was something that we just desired. Our country was forming. We wanted to see the country. How many of you have taken a trip in an RV and cruised around the country? Maybe a van or some kind of vehicle. Okay. But that is very much a pastime. I know my grandparents did that. in their retired years. It's something that is still a passion. Do you know that 1 million people are currently living actively full-time in an RV, all different ages?
I'm planning on locking my son up this summer to take him on a road trip just like that. So
there you go. Bonding, family time. Oh, what happened during COVID? Think RV sales went way up? Oh, yes. The RV industry was like, yes, come on over, because, going to a hotel and getting around other people's germs, just, we actually literally bought our RV off of someone that just bought it so his grandchildren could just use the bathroom and not the main public bathroom. That's all they bought it for, was just for the bathroom. So, of course, we bought a very nice, we call it a cab over camper that sits in the back of the truck. We own a tiny home. We own a camper. We make sure we are the, consumers of that which I teach, I experience first. Okay, next slide.
that was crazy though. Just so the kid to use the bathroom. Sorry, go ahead.
Right? I know. So now look at this, right? We're no longer in the little tiny home. I wanted to give a different vision. This is more like what people are desiring, and maybe somewhere between the 300 and 400 square feet. It's still only 12% of the average size of an American home, which is 2,500 square feet. But it's very sizable. You can have the upstairs bedroom that you can fully stand in. You can have a backstairs bedroom on the ground, or you can have a loft. Not everyone loves the lofts. They like it more interchangeable. If you're going to do Airbnb or any kind of rental, probably ideal to have something on the ground and not so much with stairs and ladders. But the early days, when you're packing in a lot of small space and you have the bathroom here, you want to put the loft above so you can optimize as much space as possible. But hopefully this is a good example of showing where it's evolved to. I just had a client, she wants the 10 wide by 40 long. That is built to a building standard that is no more than 400 square feet. So this is where I get into what makes a tiny home. Size. This kind of gets back to that, we've really grown up in size, right? From the 1950s, that 1,000 square foot to 2,000 square feet. However, we also have a lot of places where we might have these bigger homes, and what's going on in the backyard? Landscaping, right? What else could we put back there? I probably talk to so many families every time I go do an event that want to put mom, sister, brother, cousin, the kids that are boomeranging. They went out into the world and now they've come back. And yet they don't want them to live still in the family home. They'd like them to have their own privacy. And I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest opportunity, multi-generational housing, is to create everyone having their own space, right? When your kids gets to be in that 20-something, you have your own music and your own, stay out until 2 a.m. and I'll sleep, go to bed at 10. Those kind of behaviors that happen inside a home can be very disruptive for people that live in the same home. Anyone remember the roommate days, right? Dishes in the sink and all those different behaviors. So we move into the realm of offering opportunity. We also create that missing middle housing, and we create that multi-generational housing that used to happen in the 40s and 50s. And we somewhere left it behind in that growth of suburbia. And then the next one, what makes a tiny home a tiny, we've got these 3 standards. RV, which is the ANSI standard, A 119.5, for anyone that wants to know the actual standard, that's ANSI, A 119.5. It also stands for RV Park Model. That home you just saw her flash up, we build as an industry to the RV Park Model standard because we don't have our own yet. And yet, for all of you in this room, we're actively working on it. I'm part of the Tiny Home Industry Association, and there is a movement with the International Code Council. Those are the people that actually dictate the code that gets created for every home that is in this nation. Every state actually adheres to the International Residential Code, except for Wisconsin. So unless you live in Wisconsin, your home is built to an International Residential Code. Now, your state may overlay different things. Like in California, we love our efficiency. We want to make sure things are way efficient, so we really build in a lot of efficiencies. And that gives me to the next one, the state IRC. So let's see, how many of you have thought about tiny homes and thought, why do I need the wheels, right? And that's a big question I ask someone. Why do you need the wheels? And then their answer is, I'm not sure. And then I ask, do you want to move it a lot? Oh, no, I don't need to move it. My other question is, do you want to appreciate the property value? Yes, I'd like to do that. So what it really means is they just want a small home, built to the state building code, except for the cool thing, it's built in a factory. And I'll talk about that in a moment. The last one is the National HUD standard. That is a national building standard. What we used to call mobile homes, 1976 or older, are now called manufactured homes. However, those manufactured home standards could be the same in Tennessee as they are in California. So it's all about the quality of materials. Those largely have gotten better, but there are some developments in terms of materials that people are going to use more so than others because of standards, because of quality, for long lasting. They're still selling a product, right? So it's really up to a company to determine which products they want to use. And the final one is sort of wheels or no wheels. What I can say is this is a big direction of going from on-site building, where you got all your workers coming to one site, maybe driving up long roads, looking at the weather, making sure it's not raining or it is raining. What happens if it is raining? Oh, no work today. If we build in a factory, we bring in the sustainability, the controls, the material control, all of the things that you need to run a business and make a product. The product just happens to be a home. That home can come in parts and pieces and be brought to the property and built better than some of the on-site buildings that are standing to this day, right? Now, it can stay on wheels. There's your RV. It can come on wheels and then be placed on foundation. And that's built to a state building code. And that's going to happen at the engineer stamp. It's almost as if it's built in a factory, inspected as if it was built on site. And when you do that, your productivity, your ability for all your workers to come to one site, go and build in like a factory line or assembly line. You can still do customs. That's the whole thing. There's some companies that choose to just, I'll do one model and just do it really good and make many of them, or I'll do multiple models, will be more custom, but we do it all under one roof. That is the big difference of what's happening from on-site building, which has been decades and decades. Our entire lives have been exposed to on-site building, and now we are seeing the evolution to off-site.
So you just went to a facility this today, right? You tell them a little bit about today. You went to a builder, right? Was that where you were today?
Today, I'm with Salim. Salim actually has a wonderful facility up in Conroe that has multiple tiny homes on his site for you to take a look at. Depending on how big they are or small they are, you'll be able to see the chassis that supports them, all the things that go into that home. And you can go and tour these homes. And so, Salim, raise your hand. Want to make sure the guy in the red shirt, the only one with the red shirt in the room.
Because he's local too, right? So for you guys,
Yes.
This is really more of a, you can go out and touch this stuff after we talk about it.
Yeah, being inside, anyone been inside a tiny home? Okay. Who hasn't yet been and would be like to know if you're going to invest in this stuff? Yes. So Salim is going to be your new best friend here in Conroe. That's why I made sure, my one friend in Houston, now I have multiple friends, right?
You have more,
Right, I have more. But this is the person to connect with, because that's where you want to really get inside them, because this is what happens. We've had 10,000 people in our home. We walk in, oh, this is bigger than I thought. Our ceilings are taller than this roof right here. They're 10 and a half foot tall.
They almost look bolted.
Yeah. And so they're like, oh, I didn't think about it. So I always talk about the size of a home really comes down to three things: light, white, and height. Right? So the light of the natural light coming in from the windows, the height of the ceiling, and also usually white walls or some kind of light quality. It doesn't mean you can't have a feature wall, but those are the three things that make everyone go, wow, this is great. And that's the same thing we've done with elected officials and jurisdictions. We made sure to bring them in so they can kick the tires. All right. Yes. So this is key. This is why we bring the elected officials in, because if they're thinking in their mind trailer park and all the other things that are associated with that negative stigma, we want to make sure when we bring them in, look, everything about this home is built like a home from the trailer up. And it's from the trailer down that has the wheels and all the things that now we're doing a hybridization, right? And I love hybrids. I think those are the ways to really answer a lot of problems. If you're able to be portable, make things move. You may not move it for many, many years, but the ability to do so. And that's why people choose the wheels. And so we wanted to showcase this is built just like a home. It's got 2x4 walls. We're actually working with a company right now, even doing metal. SIP panels are structured insulated panels. I just saw something on a website with an R49. Do you
Wow.
know that the state of California is getting in the direction of requiring an R30 in the walls? And we just beat that with a structural insulation that will not only withstand a hurricane,
That's exciting,
winds,
guys.
or earthquake conditions.
That's exciting. I just want to highlight that. I'm going to be talking about the money soon. So that's directly exciting for the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so-
Yes. Yeah. Because what happens when you have an R49 with your heating and cooling? Remember Jay in the freezing cold winter of Iowa that had to make sure his if you had a stove, that thing goes out, you wake up cold, right? Propane, you're just burning that all the time. But you have enough insulation, you're going to be warm. So the beautiful tiny is the new big. We've got 100 to 400 square feet. That's typically with the wheels. We can go much higher with the IRC or the manufactured home compared to the average new home of 2,500 square feet. Just to illustrate a little bit, the city of San Diego needs 100,000 homes in 6 years. Times that number by 2,500 square feet. Do you think they have 250 million square feet in that city to build on? New roads, fire, police, waterways, all the things that they have to do to develop that? They don't have that. That's why we have the housing crisis. We still have the issue. Now, maybe here in Texas, you got a lot more land, right? A lot more opportunity. Look at how many houses, 17,000 could fit inside Disneyland in California. How many could fit on the Golden Gate Bridge, 2020? 144 could fit on a football field, and 9 king-size beds could fit inside a tiny home. It all depends. This is really about size, but it's really about the opportunity. So why is everyone attracted to it? It's because of that multi-generational housing, I would say. There's other factors to it, but that is the biggest one. That is the one we're able to bring families together, unlike what we just saw through COVID, right? Where families really were like, we're in not a great situation.
And being from the East Coast, I just want to say, I remember the older homes where you had multi-generational families in there, but they were just big homes, right? You see these huge homes, and now when I drive by them, it's like, well, who's going to buy these houses? How many people are living in it? You have to break them up. And then also now you're living on top of each other. So that's one of the things I remember growing up on that side about. We had multi-generational living, but it was literally on top of each other.
And who will benefit from the tiny home movement? I'm going to do that in the next slide. It's really the market is growing because we already are built. We're already built all over the country. And the reason why people want it so much is simplicity. These are the 4 top reasons after polling thousands of people, either on stage, online, you name it. These are the reasons why they want to go tiny. For simplicity, to downsize. The baby boomers have already been there, done that with the big home, big landscaping, big maintenance bills, heating, cooling, and they want to actually get closer to family. They want to be in their kids' backyards, whatever it may be. They also, for the people that are up and coming, the millennials, they want ownership and the ability to buy those $1 million homes in the areas where they may be working or living isn't really in their reach. They also may just choose not to do it. I had the opportunity. I had the income. I could do it. I could have bought in San Francisco with $1 million home. And then you are really stuck to that job that you've got to keep going, right? And then what happened? 3 years later, COVID happened.
Oh, no. Thank God.
What happens, right? You lose your house. You can't, all the things happen. So I just didn't want to be tethered to that much, mortgage. I realized there's a big upside if I was held onto that property. But the biggest thing I'm very dedicated to is sustainability. So when I thought about that big home, I thought about the heating and cooling and all that goes into that. And that's another big reason why people are choosing a smaller home movement. There's more awareness of planetary, involvement, all of the things, and not just the pocketbook. And then in the ability to be travel. Some people, I love this one, we're going to live in the backyard and we'll rent the front house. And then we're going to go and fund our retirement and go travel, right? Those are just choice points that people get to make. But the good news is they're happening all generations. In fact, speaking of generation, I just thought I'd lay this out per generation as to why they're experiencing the tiny home and what they're attracted to. So baby boomers, 75 million. These and the millennials make up our biggest population. And they're interested in retirement, downsizing, and being near family. Those are their main goals. And that's what tiny homes can provide them. The Gen Xers, that's my world. We're professional. We have family. Many of them are launching those kids. They want to launch the kids away. Oh, but they're not going away. They're staying very close by. I've had a lot of conversations. Kids can't go out and afford the rents out there. So there's an opportunity for tiny homes there. Millennials, they're gaining steam. They're starting families. They're the digital generation. They're not as dedicated to having the big homes. They may not choose to have them.
And they call
And
them the digital nomads, right?
digital nomads, there's one buying, they're literally, no kidding, there's $300,000 vans. There's van kits for, like, you buy a van for 100,000 and the kit is 65,000 to put in. They're buying them and they're cruising around the country creating their YouTube channels, right? Then there's the Generation Z. You know, they're just starting out. They're the first-time home buyers. They're the YouTube generation. Don't quite have the capital. They are going to be your first-time home buyers. Hands down, they are most excited about getting into a tiny home. Think about this. This is a new idea too. You got your colleges. How many people paid for their kids to go to college, right? You put them in the dorm, all the things. What if there was a program where there could be a tiny home that they could own or maybe partially own by the time they're done with that school? It's a very different mindset in education versus just go out and now start renting and pay back your loan.
And I love that idea. Just to piggyback, I didn't even think about it, but yes, if they could own it, then they could sell it to the next college kid when they leave, if,
Yep.
if it appreciates appropriately. So that's great. Yeah.
And I just sat on the plane with a guy from Dominguez Hills, California State University. There's a lot of universities that are in very expensive areas: San Diego, Stanford, LA, all those areas. Everyone's struggling. There are kids right now that are living in vans just so they can be at school. That's
Pulling
happening.
up the Starbucks for their Wi-Fi.
Right, exactly. They all know.
Yeah.
I got friends that live that way actively. Okay, so is there money to be made in this market? Yes, this market is in a growth curve. It is 5.8 billion to 9.1 billion in 2027. And the big reason for growth in all of these states that are really active, Texas being right there in the middle, is you're very friendly. You already have tons of land that's unrestricted. We don't have that in California. We don't have that in a lot of places around the country. You might have restrictions in the areas like Austin, really close by where it's growing, but you're going to have a lot of growth.
I wanted to chime in definitely and talk to you guys about this specifically because it's going to give you an idea of where we're headed. And this is also not just a movement within the United States, it's a global movement. Okay, so for those of you who do like to travel overseas, this is something that if you're looking to invest, finding companies, and I'm just meeting this gentleman back here, but there are going to be people expanding to do this overseas as well, right? So I also just sent one of my investors from Note Assistance Program. That's what we do. I just sent him out to Arizona Goodyear to go meet one of our mutual friends who and go tour his facility where he's building tiny homes. So there's a lot of people coming into this market, and even with what they're bringing in right now, it's really not even denting the supply that we need. It's having a negative effect as far as what we are trying to accomplish. So we have a long way to go. And so I thought it was very important. And then just last year, we were seeing increases above 3% in just the growth of the market, right? And so when we see the waves of people that are coming, as I get to my part of this in a few slides, I just want to highlight that, you know, there's a wave, right? We got to get ahead of the wave to start to benefit. We don't want to be the last to market this time.
And this is the last slide that I'll share because it's very personal to me. I wanted a piece of the American dream. I absolutely felt, you know, tethered to this rental cycle. We paid $100,000 in rent in 7 years living in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I could no longer be on that rental cycle. And yet everything around me was $1 million. And I didn't want to necessarily buy into that whole system. And I wanted to also be portable. So, you know, there's also some amazing factoids here. Less credit card than average American, people that live in tiny homes. There's a lot of responsibility of people that are living in tiny homes having no credit card debt at all, 60%, and 55% having more savings than the average homeowner.
All right, it's me. Why are we going to invest in tiny homes? Right? Listen, guys. I started on Wall Street during the dot-com era. So when I'm going to tell you when I know it's, you know, something that's going to go bust, I can see it a long time. Okay. And so this is not the Bitcoin. We were all excited about Bitcoin. Remember? This is 100% housing. It's the same stuff, just a smaller size. So the reason I bring that up is because I'm an old school economist. Okay. So we don't need to go out and reinvent money. Okay. We don't need to go and reinvent housing. This is what's happening with these bankings. And so tiny homes, in my opinion, offers the same opportunity, right, with traditional mortgages, but now we're at the front of it. Okay? And obviously the traditional mortgage market was huge. Chase, Citibank, it's huge. And now we have an opportunity as us to get involved and become bankers before they come and infiltrate the market and take all the opportunity. So that's one of my things I'm most excited about, because as you all know, we, the private investors, support everything until it gets really nice and then the big banks come in. Yes or no? Have you seen that before? Okay, so that's what we do. We are the ones that take this where it's supposed to be. So as I talk to you about why you want to put your money into this, it's going to be around some basic things. Higher rates, appreciation that she talked about. I almost passed out when I found out these appreciated. I was all in, right? And then volume. So these are the things that when you do making a business decision, you want to know. Is this going to last for a while, right? Is it going to implode on me quickly? What's the history of this market? And so that's what I want to walk you through, because in my opinion, this is an opportunity for us to start investing. And no better way, in my opinion, is than with your self-directed IRA money. It's tax-free. It's sheltered, I should say, tax-sheltered, right? And so what are the returns? Well, if you were to go out and give loans, right? I think it's called 21st Mortgage. You guys familiar with them? 21st Mortgage. They're the ones that give out most of the loans. What was it? 21st Century. There you go. They give out all the loans to RV. They're the biggest lender for RV loans. One of the riskiest loans out there, right? So their rates are going to be anywhere from about 4.5 to 11, almost 12%. Okay. Anybody like 11% returns? Anything even close to that? You get a 9%, you put in a self-directed IRA, shelter from taxes, you get a double digit. Okay. So part of what I like to do is I have a friend who's been working with Century 21 for 21st Century, excuse me, since he was in college. And so we work with them to try to buy loans from them, right? For those clients of ours that are risk adverse enough to put in RV loans in their portfolio. Yes, sir.
So one of the things that I know either private lenders or banks, doesn't matter, let's just call them lending.
Yes, sir.
Are concerned about is obviously protecting the funds that they lend out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you protect that? You obviously do credit checks and whatever. But at the end of the day, the end result is the collateral.
Yes.
So the collateral in this case is a tiny house, but it's also mobile. So how are the lenders that are getting involved really protecting those funds that they're lending, because that box, tiny house is moving?
That's a great question. I had to explore that very thoroughly. I have a partner who's looking to invest $30 million into originating loans for tiny homes. And so part of our due diligence, and I'm going to talk about that in another slide, but I'm very open to talking about it right now, is making sure that we have a complete separate disclosure to let them know there's going to be GPS attached to this. If it's removed, we have problems immediately on day one, right? So things like that is what you're going to do. Same thing, similar to what they're doing in RV land. Also, larger down payments, right? And so when you're looking for an RV, what I love about this industry is this. Specifically in the niche that Lindsay is working in, is that this is not the tiny home in your head that you're thinking, oh, this is what the city is going to use to save the homeless. Okay? And with all due respect, I'm glad that they were going to use that to address it, but this is not that. This is that high-end product. I live in San Diego, a town called Poway, right next to Rancho Santa Fe, one of the most wealthiest cities in the United States. These people are selling their homes to buy luxury tiny homes. Okay? And so a lot of them have the cash, but they want to leverage it. So you're going to ask for larger down payments, and you're going to get it, right? So these are the ways I'm going to teach you when we sit down to try to protect your investment by getting that larger down payment in a very aggressive rate. If you price this right, you'll get all your money back within the first 5 or 6 years. Yes? Can I get an amen? Amen. Sorry, go ahead. For a tiny home? I don't know many big banks that are doing it right now. They will come, and they're getting ready for it, but they don't like to invest in loans that are less than. You're going to have to get a real high-end one, right? But if your loan is under $100,000, then most of the big banks are not even going to be interested in talking to you. So that's why you're going to have to go to one of these specialty banks, or as I talk to you guys about opportunities, one of the private lenders in here that might want to help you out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 6 years ago, there was no financing available for us. Now there's 21st Mortgage and Liberty Bank, 2.
That is 2.
There's one more we're vetting and checking out. So,
but that's why I think it's a huge opportunity for us, right? We get in and we support the market because they're coming. The big banks are coming. It's just a bottom line. They don't have a choice because, as you know, the new generation is coming. And this is what they're going to be demanding, right? So let's keep going with the personal and private loans. Like these personal and private loans, 5 to 35%. So I was sitting on a plane today, flying over to another gentleman. This is how crazy it is. I met a gentleman who was flying here from San Diego to go see another guy who's building prefab homes. He's going to tour the facility before he decided to invest. Okay? So this is that sign that a lot of the more savvy people are literally getting on planes. He's leaving back tonight just to go tour a facility because this is a hot market right now. It's not just us. And so he asked me, he says, how are you? Kind of similar question about how many plan on making money and protecting myself. And I said, if it's on wheels, we're going to give them personal loans. Anybody know why? I just told you. Boom. They're going to take it. So now I can bust out a 12, 15% to protect me. So it's all about your risk. You sit down, look at the person, okay? So what we do with the notice assistance program, teach you how to originate. You sit down, look at the person and figure out what the risk is, and then you attach the appropriate rate. Does that make sense? And the appropriate loan. There's contract for deeds, there's personal loans, there's mortgages. You can put any type of loan. You have to figure out what's best. Builder financing, something that we'll talk about as well. Matter of fact, the gentleman who I was on the plane with, he said, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to suggest to the guy that we start doing our own financing if I get involved with this. I was like, he's not doing financing yet? He's like, no. He's like, I think we'll make more money off the loans than the homes. I said, yes, you will. And I literally scooted closer to him on the plane as if that's possible. Okay? And I was like, I'm going to attach myself to your hip. Please call me. Okay? So even he knew as he was flying out there, he's like, I want to get involved with this, but really I want to know if he wants to do loans. Right? And so that is an option for people who get turned down by 21st Century. Doesn't know anyone at Quest who might be interested in originating a loan for them, right? So these homes are highly demand, and anything in high demand in America, people get. You know this, right? They want it, they're going to get it. So you have to be available with the product. And like I said, this is what got me interested. Appreciation. At no point was I really trying to get involved with buying RV loans. I just deliver them to people who want to buy them, right? When I found out that these can be built to code, that's when I was like, let's get involved. We started thinking about, I have, actually, it's her friend that they're visiting. He has one of his, like she said, some guys build one model. This guy builds a few of them custom, and he has, what's the guy named? Damon John, the guy from Shark Tank. He has his own model now. So on the side of it is a signature. So it's just getting big. You're going to see celebrities getting involved. I don't know if you know, but Jay-Z and somebody else got involved, and they're building, it's called tiny camps or something. It's not like tiny homes or little camp areas. Look it up. And so the tiny is what's happening. The money's going on all the way from celebrity. We don't want to be last, and we don't want to be chasing the banks. Let's do what normally happens and have the banks chase us. We're going to do the blueprint. So this appreciation part is huge, but you want to make sure that it has that IRC and that HUD. So if you're going to think about investing, ask that question. I'm literally not that excited about investing in tiny homes that don't appreciate. It's a different game. So whatever I'm talking about here does not apply to the depreciating asset. We have to think about it differently, and you have to protect yourself differently. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah, that making it appreciable was huge for me. Told you where I live. My son's going to high school next year. Okay. A lot of you guys think, well, okay, this is a good opportunity. I like it. Is there enough for me? Well, in this picture, you're going to see that my son's high school is the only high school in California that they just opened up, and it's not going to be the last, but a class for the kids to build tiny homes. I never got more excited in my life because these kids are going to leave high school with a skill. I'm getting goosebumps right now with a skill set that's in such demand. Okay, KB Homes, they're not going to have time to transition enough to chase these kids. Do you not hear me? So imagine you're sending your kid to school and he's learning how to build the thing that us adults are out here chasing, trying to figure out how to throw money into. So when I tell you it's huge, high schools are literally putting this into their programs, the advanced ones. And so when I talk about market opportunity, which will get me excited as an ex-stockbroker, right? Work with Morgan Stanley and Dean Witter during the .com era, I told you, these things get me excited. I'm like, it's time. We got to jump in. I was literally on the forefront of the one who launched the first satellite, okay, for internet. I remember doing cold calls, telling people, I'm going to launch the satellite. We got to raise money for it. And then they're going to beam internet down to the ground. It was crazy, right? But when things are meant to be, no matter how outside the box they sound, they're going to be here to stay. And that's what I feel about tiny homes. Even though we don't process it, like I couldn't understand internet, I just didn't. But I'll help you raise the money for it. If you don't understand tiny homes, what I can tell you is that the kids are learning it. So you need to get on it. Does that make sense? All right. 700 new tiny homes are built every year from certified builders. And that does not, again, tell you how many are built privately. She even mentioned to you before that a lot of people build them too cold. Some people just build them. Okay? So let's talk about how they risk, right? You invest, you want to say, well, how risky are these, right? Here's a visual. Like visuals?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about this. This is my world. So this is how I look at things. To the right, the no risk, never seen it before. So that's that hazard, okay? Low risk, this is my example of low risk. I right now have 160 truly performing, never delinquent, never missed payment notes in Little Rock, Arkansas. If you can tell me that you can get anything safer than that, let me know. You got Little Rock, Arkansas, right? In a recession, it's only going to go down so much. It's a pretty safe economy, right? Not too sexy, but it's safe. So we eat them up. Those rates are going to be like 6, 8%. But they're solid. These people have 700 credit scores. They haven't missed anything. That's what we consider quality notes. That's what the banks are after. That's that 90% that the hedge funds have. That's that 90% that made Jamie Dimon famous. That's a story I'll tell you one day. Okay? And so, what'd you say? Right. Over the drink. And so what I want you to know is that that paper is out there and it's highly coveted, and you are competing against banks to get it. Okay? I have friends that are doing $300 to $400 million a month in mortgage paper and is performing perfect pay paper. Okay? A month. And I know there's some other people in this room, but I don't know how many of you can compete with that. So if you want to start competing with some decent paper, in my opinion, the tiny home market is where it is because they're not there yet. Make sure, again, we have our certification, so we have an appreciation. It looks like a real home, smells like a real home, walks like a real home. Get the loan on it. These loans are going to be smaller for you to purchase. Okay? So what I love about this, in my opinion, what's coming online now is a lot more smaller and affordable loans for my community. We buy loans. Why do we buy them in Arkansas and not in California in my backyard? Because the loans, the balances are there, what, $300,000? Right? Performing, you got to pay par, it's $300,000. You pay 95 cents discount, not 5% discount, you're still paying a lot of money. $100,000, $80,000 note on a tiny home? Sounds good to me. All right? So this is how I associate the risk. Because next you've got land. We invest in land. I have $6 million worth of land notes, all in Oklahoma. That's the first thing I asked because I started learning about the material rights. But unfortunately, most of the rights were sold already. You know how they do. But with that said, that is the other reason why I love investing in Oklahoma notes, because you never know. Every now you find one. That's huge. Okay. The second thing is that ask me what, and please play along. Ask me what rate are you getting on the notes, the land notes? Thank you. That was a nice question. Nice and very whitish. What rate? I like it. Sorry, I'm just still a woman. Leave me alone. All right. 12%. Okay. That's exciting to me. And I'm getting those at a discount. And so there are people that do things I call legacy assets. I call these the Arkansas legacy assets. I call my land notes legacy assets. Why? Because they were built by men, single men, not single, it's not married, but just a single individual who built his own portfolio to live and have his family legacy off of. This guy who's telling me this, 160 assets, he's a doctor, a surgeon out of Arkansas. Met him when he was 75 years old, traveling. He's bragging. I said, you know about notes? He says, yeah. Because I'm a surgeon, I make more of my note portfolio than I do as a surgeon. I said, well, that's impressive. You want to sell them? I'll never sell those notes, he says. Fast forward 5 years later, he's 80. And his wife is like, listen, what are we doing? I need to be traveling. We're not doing this. And when the wife gets upset, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So at the 1, I got a phone call, and I have access to this. You not know that the banks would pay to grab this because it's perfect paying history. It's underwritten pretty well. It's not a 12% rate, but it's also not land, right? So land, we're getting 12%. I actually think those are a little more conservative just because they were underwritten about 5 or so years ago. So most of them now have either mobile homes or homes built on them. But my point is that you're getting a 12% rate. So you see, as we're going higher up the risk ladder, you're getting higher rates. Then you want to start doing mobile homes, then you want to start doing RVs. You're going to start getting some really, really, really nice rates, which are going to be a little bit more riskier. So I love these tiny home loans. This is where I think they fit in on my portfolio, and that's why we're chasing them down so well. Any questions? Make sense? All right, let's do it. 5 reasons to invest. Tiny homes can be used as primary residences, vacation homes, rental properties, homesteads, all these different opportunities for them. And so we have multiple uses out of these things, which is another benefit for them. Lower cost and growing popularity, high rental yield. It's very attractive just for our people. So this is just a quick slide, just having a recap on everything. Low maintenance, lower entry point, as we mentioned, and a reduced footprint. So, yes.
So you can claim it as a homestead?
Yes. You get the
Does it have to be on foundation?
I believe so. So, I just lost the train of thought. Yeah, okay, good. We're on the right page. So for me, I just want to expose you because a lot of you guys here are clients of Self-Directed IRA, and you guys have the opportunity to do some investing. So I'm going to go quickly because I know we're running out of time and let you know what opportunities you have to invest, and then I'll take some questions from you. In my opinion, you can go aggressively, you go direct to the end buyer and fill the gap as we talked about it. Okay, you can go direct. Specifically, go to the manufacturer, so my gentleman back there, and ask him if he has any fundraising opportunities and needs money for. You can go passive, right? Least resistance. So what does that look like? We're the key. This is a quick image of the key stakeholders of this industry. Okay, you need to know all of these people to get this done correctly. You need to know jurisdictions, people like me to talk to you about loans, education, designers, etc. We actually have all this in this room. Yes or no? We've got Self-Directed IRA for money, got a manufacturer back there, right? So we've got all that in this room, so we're bringing you a complete package on how to get into this. Aggressively, singly, go directly to them like we talked about. Remember, you said how am I going to track with GPS? I'm going to make sure they're only between 10 to 20 years. Only when using my preferred builders, so I know that they come with the right code, right? So this is a list of things that I would do to protect myself. If I'm going to go direct to them, right? You switch, taking pictures, you good? Okay. If you're going to go direct to the builders, this gentleman back here, I'm going to ask him, I want to see your solvency. I want to know your background, right? How'd you get into this? What's your story? Story's on point. Do not ever underestimate the story. One of the most important things to me. Lifestyle. Are you living in a tiny home? Do you know? Have you lived in a tiny home? You have tiny homes in your warehouse. You have a warehouse. What's your reputation? Things of that nature. What type of support do you have? Who you're working with? Lastly, the most passive form of this is an investment fund. So as I mentioned, I have a $50 million fund. It's called the Make Money Go to Heaven Fund. And part of what we're doing is we're going out to bring liquidity to these unique housing and home ownership opportunities that are out there nowadays. Right? These new, the tiny homes, all these different ways that people are living. We want to make sure that there's money out there before the banks get there, so we can continue to support that. All right? Referrals are the key when you're doing like that. So last thing I want to say is you don't want to dismiss the opportunity. This is, we all know about early adopters and laggards, right? How many of you guys have been a laggard before? It's like, damn, right? Then I have a funny story. I won't even say it. It's not appropriate. But early adopters are where we want to be, right? And I think this is the time. So I wanted to kind of give you a visual to let you know that if you leave here and this is making sense to you, let us know. We want to talk to you about how to get you involved with this. That's really it for us right now. Quick summary on different things you can do. Tiny home fund, invest in the manufacturing. You can rental, you can Airbnb it if you want to buy it for yourself, right? Use an investment home, direct financing, purchase it as ADU. So was that helpful, ladies and gentlemen? Awesome. Do not miss the movement. Thank you so much for having us. Lindsay, anything you want to add?
Thank you so much for all being here. And we look forward to your questions, because your questions from all of this chatter about tiny homes and investing will be a really great way to guide the conversation.
All right, do we have any questions?
Information. Thank you so much. We'll take questions.
And I will go ahead and say too, if you do have a question, wait for this cube to be passed to you so our online attendees can actually hear the question of, the answer in which you guys are answering.
Amen.
All right,
Cool.
so you first.
The question cube.
What's the cost to build of a tiny house compared to a regular stick-built house?
Great question. It's a full range. I've got builders that will build sort of your boneyard build, finish it yourself. For the people that really want to get their hands dirty, put in their own flooring, paint their walls, all the way to, I've talked to a number of builds that have happened in the $250,000, you know, the person that wants the $5,000 coffee maker. So your materials have a lot to do with how much it's going to be. It also has to do with what company is building them. Some companies build 1,000 per year. They can buy different lumber packages versus the company that might build 20 or 100. That is the due diligence that she's talking about to really understand. So there's premium quality. There's more of your drywall against your wall that might have a crack or two when it arrives on, you know, on site. It really depends on the style. I would say somewhere in the $200 a square foot is more your rental model, your Formica counters, your rental white, to $350 to $400, $500 a square foot for more of your premium quality material.
Excellent.
With this demographic you showed, the older generation and the younger generation, are you seeing more people rent and going like a vacation, like an Airbnb? Or are you seeing the older folks actually staying in these homes permanently that are, you know, actually glued to the foundation?
There are definitely more of the drivers to actually have something on foundation. The tiny homes on wheels definitely is like the exciting, you see it on YouTube, people are definitely buying them. However, when you really get into the conversation of the building standards, the zoning laws, and the question of do you want to move it a lot, and their answer is no, then you're getting to the IRC or the HUD option. And that really is your permanent foundation. It may be built in a factory, but arrives on wheels and stays there. Like for a couple that just, so here's a classic scenario. Grandma and grandpa own this beautiful land in Santa Cruz, Los Gatos Hills. They're in their late 80s. The daughter lives on the property, and now the granddaughter wants to live on the property in the 400 square foot home, 20 acres of land. The kids that come in help grandpa with all the foundation and the landscaping. That is happening again and again. Those kids may move the home, but they're going to have it there like 10 plus years. They don't really know.
I want to iron down these definitions. A tiny home is a tiny home on wheels.
Tiny home is a marketing term. Should have started with that right away. So we use that word. You could say that is a van. That's a school bus. That's a home on wheels. So it does not have any building standard that is associated to it. If you picked up the phone, called your local jurisdiction, I'd like a tiny home permit, does not exist.
But on wheels.
What,
Tiny home. Traditionally
does it
described
have to
as a
be on
house
wheels?
on
Is
wheels.
that what you're asking? No, it does not have to be on
All
wheels.
right.
Does not have to be, right? A tiny home is what we sort of say to it. It's what's been.
Park home. IRC or HUD.
Park model is on wheels, stays on wheels. IRC and HUD can arrive on wheels and does not have to stay on the wheels. They get put up on a permanent foundation
So
system.
a park home can be an IRC or HUD.
No, park home is the standard that it's built. So for people, here's a classic question. Can I just take the wheels off? Physically, you can take the wheels off all day long. Does it change the building standard? No.
Okay, so that's not an IRC or HUD.
Well, it depends on what your builder's building it to and what your requirements. Your land will dictate as to what requirement you need, your goals and your land zoning.
Park home from Clayton.
Park home from Clayton Park model. Yes,
Yeah, is that an IRC or HUD?
no, that is
Okay.
built to a
Okay.
RV standard.
Okay.
IRC is a state building code.
Modular home can be an IRC or HUD.
Modular, factory built, prefab all mean state building code. There's a lot of confusion around this. I'm sorry I did not create it, but I'm just here to be the messenger that the word modular, prefab, and factory built all mean built to a state building code. And when we say state building code, international residential code. I wish I could break that down so much simpler, but it is.
But that can be IRC and HUD.
HUD is a national standard, housing urban development.
Okay.
It's what was created after all the mobile homes fell apart. I
Okay,
said we need to do
so
something about
Does
this.
that adopt the international code or no?
The
HUD.
prefab? You talking about prefab?
Yeah.
Some of them do.
Yes.
It's up to your builder, right? You have to see which ones they have. But yeah, some of them do.
Prefab absolutely is IRC. Yes.
Okay, so that's IRC.
HUD is a
Alright.
national standard.
Okay, so
different.
it sounds like mobile homes, they don't fit in that category.
So
right?
weirdly enough, I'm just going to be the like wonk
Right.
here in the room, right?
Yeah.
The mobile home was 76 or older. Anything from 76 and newer manufactured, even though the vernacular in the world is the word mobile home. It's still used synonymously. It's actually incorrect. It's even incorrect on websites.
Okay.
But manufactured home built to HUD standards is the actual legal terminology. And mobile home, if it's 76 or newer, like the aluminum siding, they still exist.
Now, I understand there is a standard for tiny homes, or at least they have some classifications, right?
Yes.
We're working on it. So the International Code Council, the people that created the IRC, is actually working with the Tiny Home Industry Association to create our own standard, what we are now kind of terminally or calling the IRC Light and on wheels. That's not a legal term, but it's what we're working with, expecting to be coming out next year. Yes, that will fit into IRC, and it doesn't exist yet. So you guys are all in the room hearing about this more so than anyone, and those on
Front of
the Zoom
curve.
world, front of the curve. Yeah. There's a press release out right now about that. So get in touch with me and I can send that to you.
You got a question?
So yeah, basically two. So if I do the math that you mentioned, right? $250 per square foot on 500, between 500 to 600 square feet, tiny house. It comes out to be somewhere around $130,000. Is that what you're seeing the average quote unquote tiny house to be priced at? Because, you mentioned earlier that under $100,000, a lot of banks are just not going to consider, right, that particular loan. So what are you seeing as a whole? Let's just talk U.S. What would be the average sales price of a tiny house? We're not talking the super customized.
And that's a good question, because I remember asking the same thing. And what I was realizing, one thing that you told me was so important, is that a lot of people are going for that solar option. That automatically bumps it up. So that's why the average is a lot higher than I thought. But go ahead. Sorry.
We routinely are looking for people that are in that realistic level when they say somewhere in that 85,000 or more, most likely 100,000. You get into the 400 square foot, you're absolutely in 135,000
Got it.
to 150,000.
The second part of the question has to do with the financing. What is typically requested or required for the down payment? I mean, obviously, we're not talking conventional. I mean, we're just talking tiny house financing. Is it 20, 30%?
20.
20.
And they're secured consumer loans. There's obviously consumer loans that are out there. These are secured consumer loans. And one thing, in addition to the GPS, you can put a boot on the wheel. You can put attached to the trailer hitch so that thing will never leave. You can also completely dismantle the front trailer hitch itself too. So there's lots of ways to protect it. You also can put it up on those metal adjustable piers. It's not something you're just going to hook up and drive away, especially when you get into the 10 wide, 40 or 30 long. It just gets too big. They're not picking that up and driving that.
Driving. That's why I was talking to you about moving that one. You had one, I think, in San Diego somewhere. Wasn't it?
Yes, that was ours. Yes.
Trying to move it out, but
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
If you're 10 wide, if you're 8.5 wide, no, you do not need permits. You're road legal. You can go as long as 40, 50. I mean, think of semi-trailers. But if you're 10 wide, you need to have a local permit for that county or state. I haven't done that. Is it state that you need it, or it's county? State. Okay, that you need to move that. Anything over that, you need a chase car. Right now you're getting the wide load. Yep.
Yes, sir.
So what is the process for the potential borrower to find you or a number of potential lenders? Are you marketing to borrowers? Are you building a relationship with builders, and then they're saying, hey, here's some potential lenders, or you just?
Yeah, so both, right? I came in to meet this gentleman. I met, like I said, I have one guy out there. So I'm working with selected builders that I'm going to be able to put my name behind, like the guy in Arizona. And these are people that I'm comfortable buying loans from. So I'm both going to the builders. Then I'm also going out here to her clients, specifically people who are buying with her, and through her guidance, I will offer financing through any of my members of my community. So I have a lot of members who are Quest clients and they have IRAs, and it's like, hey, I got a nice tiny home. Do you want to do it? Yes, I want to get into it. So we can underwrite one individual. So we're doing both aggressively, marketing to them directly and then going through the builders.
I get a lot of people that come to me for my consulting packages, and I also have a Go Tiny Academy. So there's different pathways. There's a lot of people that are like, I want to do development and RV villages and all that kind of stuff, to I want to just put one in my backyard or on my family's property. I need loans, and they need to piece all these pieces together. And then I bring them out to all the builders that I know. I don't build. Salim does not build. We're dealers, we're brokers. So there's not a lot of us. This industry is actually lacking in that sales force and that people that connect and do the consulting. There's a lot of builders. In fact, the United Tiny Homes that she's going to and working with United in Arizona, they're partnering up with an RV park. So they paid $13 million to develop this place. They're bringing their tiny homes to build it there. The place wants the ongoing monthly rent, and the builder wants the sale of the tiny home. These kind of partnerships are what's happening.
I just saw an article real quickly. Sorry, quick.
No, go ahead.
Teachers. I forgot. I think it was in Texas, but they have a whole tiny house village just for teachers. This is what's getting me excited. When you have these civil servants, right, who are actually out there helping our kids, saving our house from firing, and they don't get to get a piece of this American dream. This is what this provides for them. Some of these communities are going to have trees and lakes and stuff, so they can all live together. And offer a teacher salary. That's what you need, in my opinion. Yes, sir.
So what type of rates as far as lending do you offer on that? Or are they going for? Are they different than normal, or are they just standard
Yeah,
rates?
so like I don't know if you remember that first slide I showed, but it'll give you some of the ideas about what the rates you would be able to get. So I'll leave it up here.
I'm going to amend that. It's actually 8 to 12%. Right, Salim? And even higher. You had one at 14.
So like, yeah, it just depends on your lender and where you're coming from. If you're going to need a personal loan because you don't qualify, then you're going to start getting up higher. You can charge up to 10, 12, 15% on personal loans. When you're doing the traditional loans, you want to keep them, at the usury laws, or 9.5, 10. You can go as high as you can when you have traditional stuff. When you give them traditional loans, if you will.
If you're in the small home movement, the IRC and built to a state building code that's going to be on land and be, connected to the property, then you're going to be a lower amount because you know that they're going to be real estate. It's not something that's going to be driving away.
And you have competitors, right? So then once they do that, then that's when the 21st century comes in, right? And so there's those levels of who's going to step in and then who gets to the customer first. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, how we doing here? You doing well? You think it's all right? Good.
We got any questions online? No questions online?
Boom, baby.
Anybody else in person? Yeah? Okay.
I'm just loving this box.
You can actually throw it too. But I don't want to.
Yeah, I have a question. So, are those tiny homes also insurable, just like manufactured home? And how does that work?
Yes. So we just insured ours $1,500 for the year. It definitely starts with how much the, if something was to happen to it, what's the rebuild rate? So ours is insured at $85,000 for the unit. We have a solar system on our tiny home, so it's $17,000 for the solar. So it's roughly in that $100,000 range. Yep. So it's a little pricier than regular real estate insurance, but it covers trip endorsement if it moves around, all of those things. And there are some more insurance companies that are requiring building to certifications, like building to that the builder built to a standard.
So that's why it's important that I would say consult with her or someone to make sure you look at your builder, because once you buy something, commit.
Is that the same as like the one on wheels and the one that tie down to the foundation? It's
different standards, and you're going to have so the ones that go on foundation and they're just built to a state building code, you're going to have an engineer stamp. No different than you would have for any other building. Insurance, that's going to be a real estate insurance.
Okay.
With the homes that move, you're going to have a different, and there's less of those out there to insure them. There's at least 3 companies that I know of.
Okay.
It's like RV insurance, but it's very specialized companies that do the tiny home insurance. Mac Insurance, Foremost, Strategic are the 3 that I know of.
Another question, like you said, appreciation, right? So what is the appreciation percentage on those tiny homes each year?
That's a great question. Don't quite know that.
Yeah, I haven't seen figures on how much exactly. It's still fairly new. So I'd like to get back to you on that.
Yep.
All right.
That's still in development. That's part of the small home movement that's growing.
And I know that it's really just a fact that's kind of newly coming up because we have these IRC codes to them. And so that's where it's going to allow them to be appreciable. So I think we still have a lot more time to see.
And it's not going to be like a similar home where it's 2,500 square feet. You're putting in 400 square feet in the backyard. It's not going to be the same. It might be like a garage conversion added to your home, right? And that kind of appreciable asset. But We got to educate the appraisals out there. Oh, that part of the industry, they're not kind of caught up with things yet.
Right, right. I have a last question. So you see those tiny homes are are built in the RV resorts, right?
They're starting to replace them. So I mean, that's a whole nother market that you can start tapping
Yep.
into.
Yeah,
these
I
are-
know a
the-
couple of locally they're building tiny homes
Instead
inside
of
their RV
replacing them with
site.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
just huge because you can hook them right up to the whole water and stuff. And just like when you move out the mobile home, you do the same thing. It's
Yeah.
very- yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, if people
Amazing.
are really kind of like, do I travel a lot? Do I buy an RV or a tiny home? My big question is, are you going to travel a lot? Because your weight is a factor. But if they're just wanting to live in the home and not travel much, then choosing a home that has finishes and cabinets and all the, normal furnishings like a regular home is largely why they're making that choice.
As part of the manufacturers, when they make them on wheels, do they have to put like a VIN number on, let's say for like the mobile homes and so forth?
Yes, when they're built to an RV standard, they're absolutely with the VIN number. So with Salim, he's a dealer in the eyes of the Department of Motor Vehicles for anything that he sells that goes on the road.
Okay.
For buildings that are built to the building code or HUD, they go on the road, but only on the trailers, and then they get taken off that trailer and put on foundation. So there's no VIN number.
And then as far as like selling them, you would have to have a dealer's license if you were to sell the ones on wheels.
Correct. Yes. And that definitely Salim could tell you more about that.
All right, we are approaching the end of the seminar, so I'm going to take this last question, and then we will move on to deal pitching.
Love it.
Cool.
And we'll be hanging around for a while if you have questions, and you can get in touch with us. Thank you.
Just a follow-up question on when you say some homes are built to the code and you need a stamp. When you say stamp, what do you mean? Let's say, for example, if there's a piece of land that I want to have a few tiny homes there, but City of Houston say that we have to get a permit.
Mhm.
So what do you mean by stamp, and how do you get a permit? How does the manufacturing work with the city to get that permit?
Great question. So with regards to the stamp, oftentimes that's referred to the engineer that literally has the stamp that says this was, structurally integrity, the measurements, the standards that it was built to, all those things meet a state building code. There is really no stamping going on. Let me borrow your phone for a second. So when you build an ANSI RV, you can take your phone as a builder. I could do this. You do not need to be a general contractor. I can say, this is the plumbing I did. Here's the electrical, and I could submit it by phone. That is very different than when you build to International Residential Code or HUD code. You're going to have a lot more restrictions and a lot more oversight by the state's engineers and quality assurance. Yes. So the VIN number in RVs, very different. Think DMV, think RV versus building to state building code put on ground or the national standard.
So is the oversight in the manufacturing in the factory?
Correct.
It happens
Correct.
in the factory.
Yes. It's as if
Okay.
they're building on site. They're going to check the plans. They're going to do all that stuff. And then the inspectors can come out to the factory to take a look versus, hey, we need you to come and inspect us. We finished with this. And then they come back out. So one of the coolest things is imagine shrinking the time from which when you get the permit, then you have to wait for all the inspections, then you finish the ground, then you build the home, and then da-da-da-da. Let's just say that's a whole 2 years, okay? This might shrink it in 1 year's time because you get the permits. I'm just using time. It could be a year. And now you're shrinking it into 6 months because while the time of the land being developed, the permits going on, the home can be built in the factory, shrinking that time frame much more for it to be brought to the site, put up in a matter of a weekend, even craned in. These things are craned in all the time. Those are kind of crazy and kind of fun to look at. Once they're built in the factory, it depends on if there's, you can buy kits, you can buy homes that are fully built and put together. And I can talk definitely directly. United Tiny Homes builds homes in 90 days. Some builds in 6 to 8 weeks.
All right, so We are done taking questions for now. I know everyone has a lot of questions to ask these lovely ladies, but you guys do now have their contact information because I saw some QR codes up there for you guys. You pull them back up so maybe we can, just in case anybody missed it. All right. And while they get that going on, perfect, right there. So everyone, thank you to Lindsay and Jasmine. Round of applause. Woo!